Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you I don't know, my name's Joan Gable, and I'm the Dean of the Trulaske College of Business, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our Vaughan Executive-in-Residence lecture. Before we begin, please turn your cell phones off. I'm watching you turn your cell phones off and put them away. And also, please stay until the completion of the program, which will include a Q&A, and we'll have your colleagues circulating through the room with microphones so that you can ask your questions. And I encourage you to think about what you might want to ask, and we'll take as many questions as the time allows. Okay, so one of the strategic priorities of the Trulaske College of Business is our collaboration between you all as students, and I see a lot of our faculty colleagues here too, and our friends from town, and our industry experts. And we hope that this kind of collaboration makes you better equipped for success when you graduate. Our partners and our speakers and our experts serve a really important role in your preparation, and we're always really pleased when they give their time and share their perspective with you, especially as it really anchors our classroom real-world combination. So our speakers usually provide knowledge about trends, issues, practices, how to turn challenges into opportunity. They give you sound advice, words of wisdom, sometimes some war stories, personal examples, things we hope you'll draw from as you move forward through your respective careers and your lives in general. And today we have the pleasure of hearing some of these stories from Coach Frank Haith, who I think most of you know. But I'm going to introduce him to you anyway. So his recent success and what's happened with him since he arrived here in Columbia is a journey that I think most of us feel like we all took together. But we want you to hear the story behind that journey from his point of view so that you can use those experiences as you move forward in your own journey. He joined the Mizzou family last year after coaching for 25 years with his most recent 7 seasons at the University of Miami. He left Miami as their winningest postseason coach. Before his tenure at Miami, Coach Haith served at Elon, where he earned his college degree, Wake Forest, UNC Wilmington, and Texas A&M. In his inaugural season with Mizzou, he not only led the team to a record-setting place that we'd never been before, but he also fostered a family atmosphere and instilled in his players the desire for success on the court, of course, but also in the classroom and in life in general. And using this well-rounded approach, he and his staff guided our Tigers to a 30-5 overall record, marking just the second 30-win season in Mizzou history, and leading to widespread use of the phrase faith in Haith. In fact, as a first-year coach, Coach Haith guided his team to more regular season wins than any other Mizzou coach before him, and became the first Tiger head coach since the 1920-21 season to win his first 14 games. With his record-setting season wrapped up, Coach Haith received a slew of prestigious awards, including, and this is just a few of them, the U.S. Basketball Writers Association District 6 Coach of the Year, the Henry Iba Coach of the Year, and of course, the Associated Press College Basketball Coach of the Year. So I know we're all very excited to hear from Coach Haith, so please join me in welcoming him as our Vaughan Executive-in-Residence.
Thank you. I was told there was only going to be a few people here today, so it's truly an honor to be here. I recognize so many people here. I don't want to take a lot of time, introduce a lot of folks, but I do want to introduce Mike Alden, our athletic director, and salute him. It's such a historic week. Hey, Mike, thank you. Such a historic weekend for us, joining the SEC, and he spearheaded that, and we're all excited about this weekend, what's in store with on Saturday night, beating the Bulldogs. Talking about last season, you know, I'm one of those guys that stay in the present and be excited about the future, but it's often, you know, for me to talk about last season is really exciting for me. When I was hired April 5th, go back to April 5th, and that night before the press conference, it told me so much about Mizzou. I learned so much about Mizzou that night. And by the way, there was not a parade for the hiring of Frank Haith. I wasn't the popular hire. So, but that night, there was so much energy coming out of Columbia about who is this guy. And I truly mean this with all my heart. I was not angry at all. I was so enthused. Now, was I motivated? Absolutely. But I was enthused because it showed me the passion that this university had, not for just their basketball program, but for their university. And I was excited about that, being a part of something special like that. As I went through the press conference, I said that at my press conference, and right before I met the press, I spoke to our team. And I talked to our team a little bit and about some of those things that were in our intro, about what kind of program we wanted to have here. And about some of the things that I envisioned us being able to do, and how excited I was to be their coach. I felt their hurt in that room. You know, there's one of those things when you lose your coach, and in our profession, you're more than just a coach. Because for me, I was born in New York, I moved down south, and I was raised by my grandmother. So my coach was like my father figure. And he was a guy that really mentored me and I looked up to. And I take pride in that coach title. And I know a lot of coaches are like that. And I felt like this team was really hurt. There were really some pain in that room. And all I could say is, hey, guys, I'm excited about being your coach. Let's give it a work. Let's give it a try. Okay, I'm gonna give you everything I got for us to be successful. Everything I got. And we're going to go hand in hand. Obviously, when you take a job, there's always things that happen, that come up. And you don't necessarily prepare for them, but I think as coaches, we're prepared. Anything can happen. You know, we get the job. There's a lot of things as a coach you have to do. You have to hire staff. You have to get your family here. You have to recruit players, because we didn't have recruiting in terms of where it was at. We needed to recruit players. But more importantly, you had to recruit your own players. And you had to recruit a fan base. So there's a lot of time. You got to be so organized to be able to handle all of that. And my staff was coming from all over the country, so getting everybody in place to get people here to start working with our guys, because my time was going to be moving all over the place. But I knew I had to do that one thing that I thought was really, really important. That was recruit the guys that was here on this campus and get to know them. And every meeting, I had a meeting with every one of those guys individually. Before I had a meeting, and as soon as I got the job, I started my own evaluation and preparing myself for this job and preparing myself to coach these guys by looking at each individual guy, their strengths and their weaknesses. I already had highlight tapes on every guy on our basketball team, and I had already viewed them before I had that meeting after the press conference the next day. I started having individual meetings with our guys so I could talk to them about some of their personal abilities as a basketball player. But in those meetings, it really wasn't always all about basketball. It was about getting to know each other. It was about how I was going to run our program in terms of my relationship I was going to have with them. Am I going to be a stern coach? Yes. Am I going to be a guy that's going to coach you other than that 94 feet? Absolutely. We're going to have a relationship. We're going to be able to, you're going to see my heart, and I want to see your heart. There are a lot of things that I was aware of as I took the job in terms of meeting with each one of those individuals. I felt like there was some things within this team that needed to get fixed. There wasn't a completely in terms of being together within one another. I felt that. So as we began to start working with our guys, you know, that was in my mind in terms of how we were going to get these guys to buy in to trusting one another. Trust is so important to success. And getting the guys, you just can't come and say, you got to trust me. And I couldn't do that. That takes time. And it takes relationship. It takes communication. We have a deal in my office. I require our guys every single day. In my office, I'm on the second floor, so it takes a little bit of effort to get to my office. They have to sign in every single day, and if I'm there, I pop their head in, they talk to me, and it could be about anything. But that's one step for me to start to continue to build a relationship. We do that every year, and we do that all the way till October 15th till we start practice. Because I will see them once we start practice every day, but I don't always see them every day because of our fall schedules and what we're able to do with them. It's all about communication and getting to know one another. Well, I want to share something with you, and this just came out last week. A quote by Lawrence Bowers. There was an article in Sports Illustrated, and Lawrence Bowers quoted in this article. It was very obvious that a lot of guys were thinking beyond college and thinking about themselves. We suffered from it. I think it's fair to say that we seemed divided. It was you get yours, I'll get mine. And that attitude I felt was true. And that was just recently, and Lawrence quoted in the article, but I felt that was true with this team. Now, we start to work out with these guys. We have 10 guys, I think at the time, because it ended up being 7, so I think we started at 10. We have a young gentleman that transferred, a local kid, Ricky Krecklow. We did not want to lose, but those things happen when you take over a job. We had Kim English and Lawrence Bowers were still in the draft. So not knowing we're going to have those guys, Phil Pressey was contemplating transferring. So you can see the train wreck happening, right? When you get the job, you can see it all, just how we're going to get this thing together. Well, obviously, Kimmy and Lawrence decide to come back to school. We do lose Ricky Krecklow. Phil decides to stay, and we start to practice with 8 scholarship players. That's what we had, 8 scholarship players. And, 9. 9 scholarship players because Lawrence Bowers was playing at that point in time. So as we start our workouts in October, I get a call that Lawrence Bowers hurts his knee. I talked to him that night, and it was unbelievable. And this tells you a little bit about our kids, and I always like to talk about our guys. Lawrence Bowers is down, but he's no more down than I'm down. Because when I talked to him, I was like, man, I'm going to pick him up. He picks me up, which was, and this is what he said to me. He said, Coach, we're going to be fine. We're going to be good. You know, I'm going to be fine. Don't worry. And the next day, he was at an elementary school reading to a 5th grade class. That told me right there what kind of kids we had in our program. So we lose Lawrence Bowers. And all the experts talk about our team and how we were, preseason ranked probably with Lawrence Bowers, not with Lawrence Bowers, not a chance. And there's rightfully so. We got 8 scholarship players. We're not very big. We're not very deep. And we're playing in a league that's pretty doggone good. So what are we going to do? In the summer, we had some issues with our team in terms of when I talk about there's things we needed to learn. They need to learn Coach Haith and our philosophy. And Kimmy, who ended up being our leader on our team, he struggled in the summertime. He struggled because he was used to doing things a certain way that we were not going to allow. And I don't know if I say that the right way, but maybe he didn't do it in the past. But Kim English wanted to have a vacation in the summertime. Take a vacation. Well, college students, I don't know. I never took a vacation when I was in college. He wanted to take a vacation, so he told me he was going on vacation. And I said, Kimmy, you cannot do that. And reason being, because you're trying to make this USA basketball team. It plays at World University games, and you need to prepare yourself. And you're not going to leave school. I already worked it out with my teacher. I'm going to leave school. And I said, well, if you do that, there's going to be a repercussion, and you're going to struggle with, if you do that. Well, he did it anyway. And I tell you this story because I think that the end result of Kim English is what we all see. Kimmy came a long way. He really did. In one season. To the point where I will tell you that by the end of the year, he was our guy. He was the guy. You got to have a locker room guy on your team. He was a locker room guy. And what I mean by a locker room guy is, it's when we, as coaches, have things we want to get across to our team. And then when we're not around, we want that same language, that same feel, but maybe a different language in terms of communicate it with the rest of his team. We had to help educate Kimmy how to do that, but he was that guy. You have to have that guy to be successful. You do. Because if you don't have that within your structure of your team, then when you're not around, here's where the leadership happens. It not only happens in the locker room, it happens in the restaurants, it happens in the hotels, it happens in the nightclubs, It happens everywhere. That's where that leadership is important. And you have to have that within your team. Kimmy became that guy. Kimmy also, which is one of the reasons why we were so successful, we had to have some guys sacrifice, make some sacrifice. Kim English, if you all know him, he's Twitter king, and I know he tweeted several times, I'm sure, in his career how he's going to play in the NBA, and he viewed himself as a two-guard in the NBA. And when Lawrence Bowers went down, I went to him and said, Kimmy, I need you to play power forward at 6'5". Okay, coach. I need you to guard Jeff Withey. I need you to guard Perry Jones. Those guys are 6 and 7 inches taller than you. We need you to do it, and I think you can be successful at it. I got you, coach. He bought in. Mike Dixon, the year before, was the starting point guard. Phil Pressey, if you recall, came off the bench as a freshman, and Mike came off. Mike started. And that was a hard sell. But my sell to Mike was this. Mike, for the betterment of the team, this is what you must look at. If we start you and we bring Mike, and we bring Steve and Matt Pressey off the bench, it doesn't give us balance offensively. If we start Matt Pressey and you come in with Steve, who's not as offensive gifted as the Ricardo Ratliff, we now have great balance. You're going to play starter minutes. You're going to be on the court at the end of the game. I need you to buy in. He struggled with it. No doubt he struggled with it, but he bought in. And with those things, the rest of the team seeing those guys buy into that, it helped our team focus and start to develop that trust and that understanding that it's about winning. It's not about each individual and their, and as we had those meetings and we talked about team goals and individual goals. It was more about the team goals. And we stressed to our guys, you win, we win. We win, you win. And they understand that if you don't buy in, we won't win. All those things were stressed with our team. I have a pledge. We have a positive team pledge we give our guys at the beginning of the year where they have to pledge to do these things. I pledge to be a positive leader who sets the example for my teammates through my positive attitude and actions. I promise to share positive energy and encouragement with my team. I will not be an energy vampire, nor will I sabotage myself and team with negativity, complaining, and excuses. When I make mistakes, I will own it and seek to improve. When I'm not playing well, I will stay positive and strive to get better. When I experience self-doubt, I will remember a time when I succeeded. When I feel fear, I will choose faith. When I face adversity, I will find strength. When my team experiences a defeat, I will choose to stay positive and prepare to achieve another victory. With hard work, determination, and faith, I will never give up and will always help my team move forward towards our vision and goals. Today and every day, I will be positive and strive to make a positive impact on my team. We share that with our guys, and then we have them understand what we're talking about. Beginning of the year, when our guys, in terms of evaluating each one of our guys, as I talked about those positive team pledges, there's some guys struggle with some of those things throughout the year. And we would go back to this. We would go back to this pledge and remind those guys. I'm a big component of teaching guys through visual videotapes. And that was one thing that was different for this team, adapting to something different than they're used to doing. So when we took the job, we explained all these things that may be different, our style of play, how we play, and that can go two different ways. Because when you take over a team that's an experienced team that's playing a certain way, they may fight you on change. So it was important to us when we spoke about how we were going to play that we explained it in a way that they saw how successful we could be if they bought in. How it was going to be, our style was going to be something that was going to be very difficult to defend. Defensively, how we were going to be able to stay in ball games because we weren't very big. And we taught them the game. We taught them specifics about the game. We didn't just play. We taught them in terms of our scouting reports, we prepared ourselves every single day to compete. We took all the little minor details and we broke it down, and we were very consistent with our preparation every single day. Every single day. Our guys, we call the tape sessions the good, the bad, the ugly. And we would do it every single day. At practice, after every practice, the next day we come to practice, the good, the bad, the ugly was on before we practice again. I really believe that teaching helped our guys see themselves. And then if we had anything from a positive team pledge that didn't happen, for example, if we're in a ball game and Ricardo Ratliff struggled coming out of a ball game and he didn't understand why he came out of the ball game and he had bad body language, we brought that to his attention. And I will tell you that these guys were unbelievable in buying in. And I don't say that, this don't always happen. This is what we wanted to do, and it only happens because of the great leadership we had on this team with Kim English and Marcus Dedman. I truly believe that. So it was a fun year. We started a year out, and it's still, I think there was so much doubt about this team. Even as we started the season, we had the 2 games in Kansas City, and it was funny, everybody, we had the 2 games here, and we go to Kansas City, well, we'll see what happens with this team once they play a power conference team. Notre Dame would be the first test. Well, we win that game by 30. The next night, we played Cal, when Cal was ranked top 20 in the country. And because I really didn't know how good our team will be. And Mike Alden will tell you, I've had conversations with him as the season went on. This team was really rolling and buying in. Next night, we played Cal, 18th ranked team in the country. We beat them by 39. So after the games, they said, well, those teams are probably not very good. So we had to deal with that for a long time throughout the season because there was still doubt in this team. And what that taught these guys what it taught them was how to continue to stay focused and not worry about things you can't control, was what people were saying. You couldn't control that. All you can control is your preparation and how you perform on the basketball court. Well, we continue on through the year, and the next test was supposed to be Villanova. Well, we go to New York. They say, hey, when they go to New York, they're going to play a physical team. Those 2 teams were not physical. Well, we win that game. Then, then they play Illinois in the bragging rights game because of Miles Leonard. He's 7 feet. They're going to lose that game. Well, we win that game. So it was easy for us to continue to teach these guys and continue to get them to buy in because they had success on the court. And it was a lot of fun. It was a tremendous ride, and I will tell you that our guys never wavered in how we prepared ourselves throughout the whole season. One other thing I want to share with you, and this is something I live by, and someone once sent this to me. He said, the most important aspect of coaching is teaching. That is not true. Everyone teaches. The most important aspect of coaching is making sure what is taught is learned. And that's where it's at. Is getting our guys prepared to understand what we're doing and making sure they learn what we were teaching. I want to give you an opportunity to ask some questions. I leave some time for that because we have this large room, and usually when we go Q&A, this is pretty lengthy, so I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask me some questions. Yes? I can hear you.
There it is. One of the things I noticed that you were talking about is with everything going on around you, you wanted to stay consistent and really try to instill habits and the people that you're teaching. So I was going to ask, how important is it to stay consistent as a leader?
That's extremely important. I think they're going to, as a leader, they're going to follow their leaders. And I'm the leader of this program, and how I carry myself. My style as a coach, and we can talk about me getting thrown out in Europe if we want, but my style as a coach, I'm not a yeller screamer. I do get my point across, but I'm a teacher. I really want to be classified as a teacher, and but I'm staying consistent with my preparation, and it always trickles down to within your team.
Coach, let me just interrupt. We have 2 students with microphones, so if you want to ask Coach a question, raise your hand and give them a second to get to you, and we'll get to as many of you as we can. Okay, Parker and Chris, you guys.
Coach, you got a question? You mentioned that on April 5th there wasn't exactly a Coach Haith train coming into Columbia. As a person and a leader, how are you able to consistently keep a positive attitude while proving yourself to your team and all of Tiger Nation?
You know, that was easy because as I live by, only worrying about what you can control. As I said, that motivated me, but it also, I understood what the passion, the fan base felt, what they wanted. I believed in myself. I was confident in our abilities as a staff, what we're going to be able to do, how we're going to be able to teach our guys. I was confident in how we ran our program at Miami in terms of, our success there on and off the court. There's a couple things. As a basketball coach, we teach basketball, and we're a basketball coach, but my whole deal is more than just basketball. It's about life skills. And I felt like every kid that played for us, and then when they left our program, we graduated 21 out of 22 kids in Miami, that they felt like we taught them more than just basketball skills. We taught them life skills. I was confident that we were going to be able to do that in molding our young people here. And, regardless of what people were saying, and I think that helped our team. I really do. Because Frank Haith was an example of what people were saying about our basketball team too, in terms of, doubting them. And I wasn't going to have any weakness when I'm dealing with my team. I was going to be strong, and they were going to see that, understand we were going to play that way too.
You talked about Kim English and how he was a leader on and off the field and really just an icon in Columbia, as he was the locker room guy, as you said. Icon.
He'll love that. He'll be here tonight. I'll tell him he's an icon. Wow.
In order to be that guy, a successful leader, do you have to be successful at what you do? So in Kim's case, be one of the top scorers on the team in order to be a successful leader and have an impact in the community?
In terms of his play on within our basketball team, in terms of being a leader, I didn't put a premium on scoring and being a leader. It's about how you handle yourself and how you. Kimmy really got respect of his teammates because of how he communicated with them and how he carried himself. Being a leader is hard because you got to do right all the time, and a lot of people don't want that responsibility. They don't want that responsibility. So a guy that would take that responsibility, understand that that's what comes with it, and Kimmy understood that. And he carried himself like that. I understand I got to be right all the time.
Coach, when you go out and recruit players, are you looking for players who fit your culture, or are you looking for the best talent you can find and then try to instill the culture in them when they get here?
Well, we want talent. There's no doubt we want talent, but we want character, I have 3 things I talk to my staff about when we go out and recruit, okay? We want talent, but we also want character. We also want a skill set. The way we play, I like guys that have skills, and I think that's why we were successful this year in terms of what we did offensively. We could all pass. It sounds very simple: pass, dribble, catch, and shoot. So many athletes today, those areas sometimes get neglected, and not necessarily will be as successful in our system. So that's important to us too.
Coach. Oh, sorry. Mine? All right. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you overcame some of the adversity, both on and off the court, going from Miami to Mizzou, and how you're able to get those players to buy in and continue to move forward and be successful.
Faith and family. Faith and family, for me personally, was what gave me strength to endure, to be focused every day. And I have a wife. My wife and I have been together for 28 years. We haven't been married that long. We've been dated for a long time. I have a son that's a freshman here at Mizzou, and my daughter who's 8 years old. And they mean the world to me. Those 2 things were extremely important to me and in my life in terms of handling adversity, handling anything and that it comes in before me.
Coach, last year you had 8 scholarship players after Lawrence went down. This year you're going to have considerably more high-quality players, all wanting as much time on the floor as possible. How's your teaching philosophy going to change with regard to that? Could you
that's a great question. We will want, in terms of how we teach, will be the same, because there's going to be some certain things in our program that are going to be our identity in terms of what Mizzou basketball looks like. That's going to be in place. We will be bigger. We will be deeper. Now comes our job being able to get that chemistry where we need it to be. Because we've got a couple guys, and if you look at our team on paper, and everybody's talking about this, and this is something we're going to really help our guys understand. These guys should be good. No, that's not necessarily, because you can have talent and not win. You must have chemistry. You must have all those things, intangibles that last year's team had. The buy-in, the trust, good shot, great shot. All those things are extremely important, and we got to get these guys, and we got some guys on this team. A lot of them hadn't played. When we went to Europe, we only had one guy that played on last year's team to play, and that was Mike Dixon. So we got a really whole new team with Lawrence and Phil coming back. But blending all that together, it's going to take some time, and we got to get all that thing to see how it's going to work in terms of guys understanding their roles and buying into their roles.
Coach, I've always wondered, when you're screaming at someone who's taken a bad shot and it goes in, how do you coach that? How do you say, great shot you shouldn't have taken?
We better make it. If you take a shot like that, you better make it. That's simple. Gary Lincoln will tell you, he probably took a lot of bad shots in his career. And Coach Stewart probably yanked him out of the game, right? But if you want to take a shot like that, you got to make it. Now I'm pretty flexible, easy with our guys on, but the next day will where it be tough in terms of shot selection, in terms of our teaching.
Coach, thank you for the presentation. I wondered if you could go a little more in depth on the trust building process. Mm-hmm. I think I remember an interview, one of the players was talking about the MU experiential learning, the high tower, the ropes course, way out of their comfort zone. What were some of the tactics that you used to build trust with the team that you found so effective?
Great question, because actually I was going to include that in our earlier. We had these two guys who are Navy SEALs, former Navy SEALs, come in and visit with our team as a group called The Program. And they spent about 2 days with our guys, and it was a lot of stuff in the field where we're challenging, developing some trust, some physical stuff. There was some stuff in the pool. We had some guys that couldn't swim on our team, so one of the exercises, which was really neat, they had these sweatsuits on, like old gray, thick sweats. Bottoms and tops, and they had to take them off in 12 feet of water. And you had to trust your teammates to help you get that done. Some guys got it done faster, and they had to help guys to get theirs off. And which is kind of, if you can't swim, a little scary. Ricardo Ratliff was holding on to the side, But in all honesty, and Ricardo Ratliff was probably the one guy on our team that really struggled with that issue more than anybody, and that's trust. He really did. He didn't have a male figure in his life. His mother was all he really respected, and men, he really had a tough time with men. He told that to me. In my first meeting, he said, I have a tough time trusting. And I have a tough time with men, trusting men, period. And so that was a lot of work with Ricardo. And by the end of the year, he was amazing. He really grew a whole lot from last season to this past season. Got one. How did your leadership change, or how was it tested during the more trying parts of the season? I didn't quite hear that. Say that again.
How did your leadership change, or how was it tested after more trying parts of the season, after a key loss or something like that?
We stayed consistent. when we had a tough loss. And I know we went to K-State after we won, I think, 14 in a row, and we lost to K-State. We had a tough game right after that at Iowa State, right after, which was, and I said it after the game, Iowa State's one of the best teams in our league, and they ended up making the NCAA tournament. That was a tremendous win for us. And how we handled it was we knew that we got manhandled in Manhattan. I mean, they really went after us physically. They challenged us, and we didn't have any fight in us. I thought that set the tone for the win at Iowa State in terms of our focus and how we understand we've got to be consistent in the effort game. And let me explain to you the effort game. What the effort game is, every single night, you don't want to lose the effort game. We should win the effort game every single night. What that is, every loose ball, 50-50 balls we're getting. Every time that shot goes up, we're blocking out. Every chance we can rotate and take a charge, we're taking that charge. You know, those are things that should happen every single night. There may be nights where you may not shoot the ball well. You may not, but you can rotate and play defense. You can block out. You can dive on the floor for loose balls. You can do that every single night. And if we're consistent with that in the effort game, we always give ourselves a chance. And we didn't do that in the K-State game, and I thought that set the tone in the next game against Iowa State.
Coach, I was going to ask you, after a new season and everything was kind of new for everybody, how close were you guys going through everything as new as a family? How close were you as a family and as a whole, as a team?
That's a tremendous question. And family is a big part of our giddy-up. It is. And we talk about family within our team. And that's why I bring my family around a lot, too. And that's, to me, that's an educating process. And I want our players to see how I am with my family and our other coaches and their families. But we do a lot of things. We did a lot of things together. And family, in terms of that helps, when you talk about family, that helps you build the trust. This team was really, really close. And it went from one end of the spectrum to the other. I think at the beginning of the year, they were not as close. And as the season went on, you could sense that. Here's how you know. When you see Phil Pressey getting the paint on a driving kick, and he trusts and knows Kim English is going to be in that right corner, because that's where he's trusting. He knows he's been there before. When Marcus Dimon forces this guy baseline, he trusts, he knows Kim English is going to have his back and be willing to rotate and take that charge. And Kimmy's going to do it because he's going to knows Ricardo is going to rotate and block his guy out if it doesn't happen. Those are things in terms of the guys established throughout the season that helps build that trust, and they see, hey, this guy's got my back, I got your back.
Coach, curious if you could, up here in the upper corner.
I got you.
Yeah. Just curious, any interesting, in the day and age of all the statistics and fantasy ball and leagues and things like that, any key performance indicators that you track on your team that you think are unique to your system? I'm just sort of curious about some of the stats you do.
Well, at the end of the year, we led the country in offensive efficiency. And what that is points per possession. We averaged, Dave Ryder, are you in here? What do we average, 1.5? 1.5 per possession, I think is right, which led the country. That's a statistic that's important to me. And from an offensive standpoint, field goal percentage, defense, and a statistic that really was startling to me when I got the job is we were -5 rebounding, -5, the year before. We had to change that if we were going to win. This year we were +1 with a small team. So that means we out-rebounded our opponents being a small team. So those are some of the statistics that I thought were important for us to be successful as a basketball team.
Coach, you talked a lot about leadership and like Marcus Denman and Kim English. Obviously, like Kim English and the public eye, he was more spokesman, but Marcus Denman was more of a quieter. How did he show leadership on this basketball team?
Marcus is the way it was how he carried himself. There's a crew of guys. Marcus was one of those guys. After every practice, he was a guy that's always there. I don't care if we had a 2-hour practice or a 3-hour practice. He stayed after and shot. Maybe played some one-on-one, but he was always in the gym. And he was not as vocal as Kim, but his leadership was very noticeable because how he carried himself and how hard he went.
So, Coach, I read that in the 1970s, the famous Ohio State football coach Woody Hayes, he placed special importance on beating Michigan. Coach, so during the season, did you place any sort of special emphasis or importance on like certain games, such as the KU game, or did you approach each game equally?
Well, I know what I must say.
Yeah.
I must say KU game was a big game for us, But, that was a game like that, when you have a rivalry game like that, there's no need to play the game with your guys. It's another game. It's just a game. I don't play that game with them. They're too smart for that because it ain't just a game with them. So, coach speak, yeah, we want to be focused on every single game and prepare ourselves the same way for each night out.
Coach Haith?
Yes.
After such an amazing season, it didn't really end exactly the way we would have hoped. Can you share with us some of the things you talked to the team about following the Norfolk State game?
That was a tough night, and it was very emotional in our locker room because as we got into the NC2As, and when you lose in the first round, you feel like you never were in the tournament, to be honest with you. And to have as many seniors on our ball club, it was an emotional locker room. And the things I've talked to those guys about, and this is throughout the whole year, no one game was going to define the success we had this year. And that's tough to swallow at that point in time because there's not another game. That was it. It happens. This happens. We're not the first team that this has happened to. Now, for those seniors, we thank them for all they've given to this university, how important they've been to us. And when you go back and look at it, and this is for me as a coach, if we had played poorly, it would have been like, man, we weren't, but we played good. We shot 56% from the floor. We shot 50% from three. And we just played a team that played out of their minds. And banking threes, air ball misses, layups, and it was one of those games because they were playing so well. If we could just find a way to win that game by 4 or 6, we would have been fine.
Hey, Coach, who was the first player you talked to after when you first got the job, and what did you tell them, and how did they impact other players to stay?
Well, Kim English was the first guy I spoke to. And actually, I spoke to Kimmy the night that I was before my press conference. And the reason being because I knew Kimmy at Miami. I recruited Kimmy, and I had a relationship with him a little bit in the recruiting process. And I gave him a little bit about my philosophy in terms of how we were going to run this program. And I think he was very helpful in that regards with his teammates. But I didn't expect Kim English to do our job. That was going to be my staff and Frank Haith in terms of us being able to, and I'm sure that's that locker room guy, but we had to recruit those guys in terms of we had to build those relationships with Phil Pressey and Matt Pressey and Marcus and all the other guys in the locker room.
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, what you expected out of the Europe trip and, how it's going, meshing all the freshmen and transfers with the older guys and if the leaders come up or whatever.
I thought the Europe trip went really, really well. We played men. We played professional teams. And I was really encouraged how we performed because the only guy that played this year's team that played last year was Mike Dixon. Phil Pressey didn't play, Lawrence Bowers didn't play, and both those kids could have played. So we were playing with all new guys. And I thought they handled themselves very well. I thought our new guys, Ryan Rosberg, Tony Criswell, were outstanding. The guys were within our program that we worked all year, Keon Bell, Ernest Ross played very well. We still got a lot of things to iron out and it was great for Mike Dixon because Mike Dixon had a chance to play the point the whole time. And so that was important for him. Playing point in our system was a little different than playing point in the previous system. So him having a chance to do that consistently, with Phil Pressey, and if you recall, I remember games. I remember everything in the games. I watched every tape. When Phil fouled out in the Kansas game and Mike had to play the point, he had a couple moments that he struggled in. And so that was a great experience for Mike to get that time to play the point.
Coach Haith, my question would be, if you ever had a recruit walk into your office or a new recruit and he felt that he was greater than the game, what would your conversation with him be like? How would you bring him down to believing that he's just another player, not the greatest player in the NBA?
Well, I would hope that when we were recruiting guys, that we would know that. And the team concept is something that we stress, and that's a culture. Now, that's part of our identity that we want here. You know, we started that last year, and the guys that saw that, and these guys coming in, hopefully we have a trend of guys that will help us educate those new student athletes. That's what we want. And, you know, our identity will be a team that plays together as a unit. They don't play selfish basketball. They play team basketball. They share the ball. They trust one another. And we have to establish that. But I'm hoping that our culture will help us get that done.
Hey, Coach. With Kimmy, right here.
I got you.
With Kim in Detroit, Marcus in San Antonio, and Ricardo in Korea, do you still keep in touch with those guys? And, like,
I do. And Ricardo, before he left, I spoke to him. He's excited about his opportunity in Korea, and that's great that you know that. And then Marcus, we were trying to see Marcus, and Marcus left. He's in Paris now, or outside of Paris. He's in France. We actually tried to hook up with him when we were in Paris, and we weren't able to, but we spoke before he left to Paris. And then Kimmy, he and I talk often, a lot. And he'll be here tomorrow night. I think he's speaking somewhere tomorrow night. If you guys are around, have a chance to hear him, it'll be a great, eventful speech, I'm sure. Kimmy's one that is not lost for any words. So, yes, sir.
Coach, I think most people would agree that you're at the top of your profession right now. And so how do you continue to get better and evaluate yourself? You talked about how you evaluate your players, the good, the bad, the ugly. Can you just talk a little bit about how you personally try to strive to get better and how that might relate to your personal network or your professional network as coaches? That's
a tremendous question. I believe this. I had someone send this to me this year. Success is not owned. It's rented. You have to pay rent every day. So I live by that. I'm one of those guys in terms of preparing myself, and these guys, the guys on our team will tell you, often I watch tape all the time. In the off season, I watch other teams that I think that play well. I spend a lot of time evaluating other college programs, coaches. And when I got the job here and I wanted to play 4-out, and a program that I really studied was Villanova. I talked to Jay Wright, and I watched their program quite a bit, some of the teams he had early on. Great coaches always steal from one another. You know, if you're one of those guys that think you've got it licked, you're going to retard your development. And I'm always trying to learn and get better. I'm a big NBA guy in terms of things they do. Stan Van Gundy, former head coach of Orlando Magic, is a really good friend of mine. I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and when he was out of coaching one year when I was in Miami, he and I spent a lot of time together. So there's guys that I feel that are confident in the coaching profession that I reach out to often, and always trying to stay up on my craft and be better.
Hey, Coach. This year, once again, you're going to be going into a new environment with new assistant coaches, new players, and a brand new conference. I was wondering, is there anything you're going to be changing about your system as opposed to last year when you were going into another brand new system?
You know, I think it'll have some similar looks because I'm a spread pick and roll guy. I like to spread pick and roll. I'm talking basketball to you guys, but I like the spacing of that. Now, when you talk about playing that way, it was so effective because Kim English was a guy that could space away the 4 spot. We'll play Lawrence Bowers and Tony Criswell. Both are skilled guys. Not the shooters, but very skilled. You know, and in terms of how we'll play with those guys, there'll be ISO stuff for those guys in those positions where they can take advantage of their skill set, which is not shooting. So there'll be some tweaks, but a lot of it will look similar in terms of our spread pick and roll.
You talked about, you know, family and trust and, you know, working hard and all those different things, but, you know, every coach in the country says those things, or at least tries to coach those things to their players. Why is it that you were so effective in executing that and so successful?
You know, I can only tell you how I do it, and and this is the way I express this to my guys. I say to them that I want you to see my heart, and I want to see your heart. And that's the only way we can be able to establish our relationship. And that takes communication. That takes a lot of, time on the phone, not just that 94 feet. I'm hopeful that that's one of the ways that we help our guys establish that trust and that bond and all those things in terms of building that chemistry that you would like to have on the court. Trust me, if you don't have it within your staff too, I think all these things I talk about as our players, with our players, you have to have that within your staff. If you don't have that kind of relationship within your staff, it will definitely show up on the court also.
With the loss of Ricardo Ratliff, what do you look for in Alex Oriaki, who has won a national championship?
A national championship? Man, Alex is a big boy. I love him. That's a blessing, trust me. And he's got a chance. And I want to temper things about Alex. He's totally different than Ricardo in that he's going to be a space eater. He's going to be a guy that I think will have a presence, a big presence in the paint area defensively and hopefully offensively. He's not as mobile as Ricardo, but a guy in terms of our post-up game we can throw into. Ricardo was great at catching the ball on the move. I think Alex will be more of a guy that can lock on the block and catch the ball and be effective.
Hi, Coach. I grew up a big Big 12 basketball fan. And so this transition to the SEC is a pretty big deal, I guess, to a lot of fans, obviously, of basketball. But for you came here with the intent of coaching in Big 12 basketball. Mm-hmm. How has the change in the SEC changed that, your approach, or evaluating the differences in the conference?
I spent a lot of time this summer watching some tape on our SEC opponents. And the one thing I will tell you that is so underrated as a basketball league is not even funny. It's an extremely talented basketball league, and the one thing is stronger than the Big 12 and much different look is it's so athletic. You've got to be ready to block out because you will get dunked on. It is a high-level athletic league, and we've got to be ready for that in terms of the attacking style, defensively, the pressure that they put on you. Much different than the way it was in the Big 12. The Big 12 is a little bit more physical, but not as quite as athletic as it is in the SEC, and that's something we got to adjust to and adapt to. And I think that, like I said, I think it's a very underrated league, and I think with us and Texas A&M coming in, it will start to get some recognition because it is a very talented league.
Coach, it seemed like at the game in Omaha, about 80% of the crowd decided to jump on the Norfolk bandwagon. How much do you think that affected the team and the gameplay?
That's the way it works. They always pull for the underdog. When you're in NC2A, it doesn't matter. The underdog gets pulled for. And we won at Baylor. We won, at some tough places in this league. So didn't have an effect because we shot the ball well. We played well. But did it encourage Norfolk State? Probably. But we lost that game and to a team that played really, really well.
Hi, Coach.
Hi.
Even when the team is winning, there are a couple of guys who are not doing so well. There are always a couple of guys who are not doing so well as, the team, the whole team. So what do you do to bring them to high spirits, or what kind of special treatment you give to those guys?
Okay. I think I got it right. What did we do special with our team in terms of?
There are a couple of guys who are not doing well, even when the team is winning, usually. So what kind of special treatment do you give to those guys?
Got you. We always pick our guys up. And that's one of the pleasures. When you have a guy that's down, you got to pick him up. And, it may be an early session of film, one-on-one, to encourage. The one thing I think coaches, you got to be really good at, is monitoring that and finding those, understanding that there may be situations this guy needs to be picked up. And to our leaders, and helping him understand that, Kim English, you need to pick up Ricardo Ratliff. It would be great. You need to lift him up a little bit. And those are some type of techniques that I think are important to picking a guy up that's down, that's not playing as well.
Right.
Like you just said, last season Kim English showed tremendous leadership and was your locker room guy. But is there anyone thus far shown might be this season's locker room guy?
Well, you know, we got time to figure that all out, but I'm hopeful that Kim Ing's bringing back. I'm hopeful that Phil Pressey and Lawrence Bowers are the two guys. I'm hopeful that will accept that role and buy into it. You know, Lawrence is a tremendous guy, but he's real quiet, and we're trying to encourage him and motivate him to be that guy. And I think he's very capable of it. I also think Phil is very capable of it. Hey, I appreciate you guys. This is awesome for me to have a chance to speak to you all, and invite me back. God bless.
Thank you very much, Coach. Now, before everybody gets up, wait 1 second. We have a couple things we need to do. First, we just have to thank a few people. Of course, we want to thank the Vaughan family for supporting the Executive-in-Residence lecture series, all the staff in the advancement office, our partners in athletics, the Academic Support Center, the fabulous LG Patterson from Recess Inc. Photography, and we're really grateful to all of them for their support. So if you could give them a round of applause, we'd appreciate that, too. Coach, if you could join me, I'd appreciate it. So we have some small tokens of our appreciation. First, we have something that we treasure a lot here in the Trulaske College of Business, which is the Trulaske tie. And the students will be jealous because not very many of these have migrated outside of the hallowed halls of Cornell Hall. But this is a limited edition Trulaske College of Business tie. We hope you'll wear it with pride. And also, we have a plaque just to commemorate our appreciation for your remarks today, which reads, an appreciation to Frank Haith, the Vaughan Executive-in-Residence lecture of September 6, 2012. So thank you very much. Okay, thank you all very much for coming today.